Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. It's Mr. Quinn here, and thank you so much for joining me for this week's primary assembly. As you can see, we're going to continue with our theme of resilience. And as a starting activity, I want you just to cast your minds back, think way, way back to all the wonderful assemblies that you've had over the last 2 weeks, or 3 weeks even. Think back to Mr. Gale's assembly. Think back, if you're in Key Stage 2, to Miss Clampett's assembly. If you're in Key Stage 1, have a think back to Mrs. Colley's assembly. And then think back to last week's assembly from Mrs. Buckley that was all to do with resilience. And have a think to yourself, and if there's anyone around you, you can tell them, what does that word resilience actually mean? Have a good hard think. What does it mean? Now, I'm sure you've all come up with some wonderful, wonderful explanations for what resilience means. But today, boys and girls, what I'd like to do is I would like to read through with you a wonderful story called The Hugging Tree. And you can see from the front cover of that story that it's all about resilience. I love reading stories, you know that, boys and girls. But whilst we're reading it together, I want you to be thinking, what has this got to do with resilience? What on earth has this story that Mr. Quinn is reading to me got to do with resilience? But here we go. The Hugging Tree. On a bleak and lonely rock, by a vast and mighty sea, grew a lonely little tree, where no tree should ever be. How she got there, no one knows. She sprouted stems and little leaves, as any tiny seed will do. There's hardly any dirt for me, no forest breeze, no birds, no bees, but I will do the best I can to make this rock my home. Her tiny roots pushed day and night, and bit by bit the rock gave way. A smidge, an inch, a foot, then two. She grew and grew and grew and grew. The ocean hugged the rocky shore. I like you near me, little tree. Let's keep each other company. Soft gold sunbeams kissed her crown, warm as honey pouring down. At night she raised her branches high to greet the moon up in the sky. I wax and wane, I ebb and flow, I cycle through, full to thin, and when I'm done I start again. That's how life is, you know. One summer noon a pair of loons landed on her canopy. A pretty tree, a sparkling sea. Shall we make this place our home and raise our baby chicks right here? The little tree warmed up with pride. She spread her branches high and wide. I'll be your home, she replied. You can tell me if you've seen the forest where my family grew. Oh, we've built our nests in trees like you, quite far from here, and so you blew. Many nights and many days you flew on wind just like we do. They built their nests, they laid their eggs, and soon two baby chicks were born. Summer passed, autumn too. The little tree turned red and gold. Then winter came with howling winds and cutting cold that broke her boughs. The loons flew south, the sea all ice, the rock all snow, the moon was lost in thunderclouds. Mighty cliff, hold me tight, don't let me blow away. Little tree, with all my might, I'll hold you close night and day. Storms will come and storms will go. At last the sun melted the snow. But now the tree could not grow, the storms had torn her roots. The moon gazed down and softly said, sometimes we lose our way. But with some help we start again. That's how life is, you know. And soon a boy came running by, skipping stones into the sea. When he saw the little tree, he stopped and stared. He touched the tiny leaves, he felt the ragged roots. He shook his head and said, I can bring just what you need. I can help you, little tree. A tree can't hug a boy. It has no hands or arms, but it can hug you with its heart, and that is just as deep and warm. Every day the boy came back carrying a full backpack. From the pack he took a tin and poured out rich brown earth. He packed the roots and tucked them in. He planted flowers round the tree and made a path for all to see. Now everyone will know that even on a granite cliff, a tree can grow. And then he went to sleep and dreamed the things that boys dream of. Now every day new people stop to rest beneath the little tree and dream the little things we all dream of, to love, to share, to give, to dare, to grow just where we are. And to this very day they come. For on a splendid sunny rock, by a warm and bright blue sea, a great big hugging tree grows just where she was meant to be. Thank you for sharing that story with me, boys and girls. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you could see what it has to do with resilience. But, boys and girls, I want you just to have a think. As I said, way back to Mr. Gale's introductory assembly, all about the sunflowers, and then Miss Clampett and Miss Colley and Mrs. Buckley talking to you specifically about resilience. So let's think specifically about the story that I have just read to you. And I want you to think to yourself, or as I said, if there's people around you, then you can tell them. But think about, what was the setting of this story that we've just read together? Where was it set? If at any point, boys and girls, you want to go back, you can rewind the video and read the story again if you get stuck on any of these questions. But the next thing I want you to think about is, what is the main problem that the tree faces in our story? So what's the real challenge that the tree faces? As I said, go back and rewind if you want to read the story again. Let's consider, boys and girls, what happened when winter came? What happened? And when winter comes, where does the tree turn for help? So where does it go and try and get help? And the final question that I want you to consider about the story specifically is, how did the little boy feel when he first saw the tree in trouble? So when did, or what did, or how did the boy feel when he first saw the tree? And then think about, boys and girls, think about, have you ever seen someone in trouble and have you helped? So that boy saw the tree in trouble and helped. Have you at school or at home with your family, have you ever seen somebody in trouble and helped them? And when was that? Have a think to yourself or tell somebody around you. Now, this is where I really want to think about resilience, boys and girls, because in the beginning of the story, the tree was a little seed, but it grows little by little, just like you do. Some of you are in year one, some of you are in year six, nearly going to secondary school. So you're all at different stages of your growth. When the story ends, the tree's big and it can hug and help others, and everyone goes to them for help, and everybody comes to get a little bit of joy from the tree. But we're not all at that stage, boys and girls. Some of you won't be at that stage yet where you feel big and brave and you can help others. So, what I want you to think to yourself at this point is, what part of the story reminds you most of yourself? And this is where you probably need to go back and rewind the story and think, which part of that story represents you the most? Now, when I was thinking about this, boys and girls, sometimes I feel like I'm big, the big tree, and I can help and hug others. But sometimes I don't feel so big and strong. Sometimes I feel like the tree in winter and I have to ask for help. I have to ask your teachers for help. I have to ask Miss Clampett and Miss Colley. And often I need to ask Mr. Gale for help. So actually, I feel sometimes I'm different parts of that tree and different types of that tree. We're all like the tree, boys and girls. Sometimes we can be scared. We can feel small. We can feel lonely, and we can feel out of place. And I'm sure all of us in our lives have felt those emotions. And often we feel helpless. But sometimes, boys and girls, we can feel proud of what we do. We can feel powerful. So remember, from all your wonderful assemblies up to this point, we've learned that resilience is the ability to recover quickly from different situations. And we've seen through that story that that particular tree, that tiny little seed, showed so much resilience that it was able to cling on even through the difficult times on the edge of that cliff. And eventually, after a big struggle, boys and girls, it was able to grow into that beautiful tree that we saw at the end. So, what I want you to be thinking of, boys and girls, is when you encounter a difficult situation, like the hugging tree, how can you overcome this? I've thought of four ways you can overcome difficult situations. You can ask for help. You can remember what Mrs. Buckley said, that you might think to yourself, I can't do this yet. You might want to speak to friends. You might want to keep trying and never giving up. But can you think of any more ways to show resilience? Can you give advice to anyone else in the school about how they can be resilient or how they can show resilience? What I'd like you to do, please, boys and girls, for me, is I'd like you to contribute to my Mentimeter word cloud. I'm sure you've all seen those wonderful word clouds that create a wonderful cloud of key words that people come up with. And I want us to be able to share this with each other. And I want us to be able to share the words so that if we ever get stuck or we find difficult times, we can refer to the word cloud and think, I can try that, or I can try this. So you can follow the link there, boys and girls, or you can scan the QR code that I've also provided. You've got a couple of days to do this. And once the cloud is complete and I've got lots and lots of contributions, I will share that with your class teachers and they can then share that with you. And I will share it on social media as well so that everybody can see what the HIS community does when they come up with a difficult situation and what skills of resilience they can show. Boys and girls, I hope you've got a lot to think about from this assembly and you've got things that you want to contribute to my Mentimeter and word cloud. I hope you have a wonderful week. I just want to draw your attention that I'm up to chapter 6 in Danny the Champion of the World. That's on my YouTube channel. So if you're watching this, you'll already have access to the rest of my videos. It would be wonderful if you could all join me for story time each day. We'll be starting chapter 7 on Sunday. I wish you a wonderful week, boys and girls. We miss you. All of the teachers do, but you're doing a fabulous job. You're showing amazing resilience. Keep it up, please. We are very, very proud of you.